seconds, but first and foremost, welcome everybody. Matt Stamper, president of the San Diego ISACA chapter, at least through the end of this year, which brings me to an important topic. We are now actively seeking nominations for the president and potentially the vice president role as well for the chapter as we come into 2022. So a little bit later, if you're a member of the San Diego chapter, please be on the lookout for an email that will highlight the elections that will be happening in November. And then during our annual meeting in December, we'll go ahead and announce some of the key new members of our board of directors. But it's been an absolute honor working with everybody here within our chapter, and really looking forward to participating and helping and supporting the new leadership team as we come into 2022. Dave, I believe you've got some announcements that you would like to do before we jump into our guest speaker, and the topic couldn't be more timely. So Dave, I will hand it off to you, sir.
Sure. No, thank you, Matt. And I'm going to put the link in here. We're super excited, excuse me, that we get to participate in an on-premise event on Monday. The link is right here. ISACA will be having a table at Accounting Day. It's in Mission Valley, and we've got it added to the website as well if anybody's interested in registering. And there is a discount code for ISACA members to attend. So I want to make sure everybody's aware of that. And do want to remind everybody that we do record these. So if anybody has an issue with it, please understand that we will be recording these, and we share them on our on the chapter's YouTube channel, which I'll put a link for that in here. And I also wanted to share with everybody what our chapter's LinkedIn page is. That's where we've been posting information. There was a private group that we're moving away from and making it more public and accessible to everybody. So that link is right there. And yeah, I'd like to jump in. We're super excited to have this topic with Deidre Diamond. We are going to be talking about hiring in the cybersecurity industry. And I know the title is The Good, Bad, and the Ugly. And I think there's probably more bad and ugly on this than good. And I don't know if it's just that it's messed up or that it hasn't been given proper direction yet. And it does take certain leaders and people with vision, and Deidre is definitely one of them. So she is a quick bio, talent and technology veteran. She is the CEO of CyberSN, has created the largest cybersecurity talent acquisition service and technology firm in the US. Her vision is to remove the pain from job searching and matching for cybersecurity professionals. So with that, I'd love to hand the microphone over to you. And as people do have questions, please pop them in the chat. And if it makes sense right at that time, we'll go ahead and ask it, or we'll be saving some towards the end.
Yep, absolutely. Thanks for the introduction, and it's great to be with you all. It is very true that it was very hard for me to come up with the good, as I told you, Dave. Yes. Dave came up with the title, and I said, I could do that. I'll tell you the good, the bad, and the ugly. And then when it went down to it, I thought, oh, I found myself struggling on the good. So who am I beyond what Dave read? I just want to say hello to my fellow Californians. I happen to be sitting on the East Coast, but I'm bi-coastal for the last 20 years of my life. I in California and Boston. And I went to Cal State Fullerton as with a degree in criminal justice and sociology, almost became a criminal attorney. So thankful I found the group of cyber professionals that I did back in 2007. And so it's really important for me to share with you a bit of my work story so that you understand what makes me a subject matter expert on this topic. And this topic is a national security issue. It is bleeding into other human stress that is a national security issue for our community. And so, you know, we have a lot to get to. There isn't one answer. This is a formula of things that are going on. And so, you know, something to understand about me is that, you know, 1994 is when I started actually at Motion. I was the vice president of sales 2 years ago, but this is an IT staffing firm owned by the same people that own Rapid7, owned by the same people that own Percussion. So out of college, I worked for 2 serial entrepreneurs for 21 years. So I come from a high EQ, emotional intelligence management business where people train and develop people, as well as build very successful companies. Motion's over $1 billion. We know where Rapid7 is. And so when I founded my own organization, which is CyberSN, I was out of staffing for 10 years through the whole digital evolution. I mean, I used to get resumes rolled up in a fax machine. You know, I'm 50 now, so it's not my first rodeo. And, you know, it hit me square right in the face within weeks of being in business, hiring my people, thinking we're just going to go crush it fast. Well, we ended up crushing it. I had to build technology to do so. And I'll tell you what that is and why. And it all blends into solving this massive problem we have, which is, and before I go on, I was a year in the business when I realized that I represent the 1% founding CEOs of a tech company. I also self-funded, so I'm actually less than the 1%. And it really bummed me out because I didn't know my sisters were so left behind. I came from a family of, you know, women were equal. I went to school, you know, didn't feel it. Employment didn't feel it. And so that's when I was like, oh my gosh. And not only do we not have enough people, I want to help my sisters. And so Secure Diversity was founded, and we do a ton to bring women into security and provide training access. So I have stats on diversity big time too. So let's dive into this. Here's the 3 takeaways. This is as good as I could get for the good. It's like 2 slides. I'm not joking. It wouldn't make sense because the next 2 are national security issues. So how do you even, you know, how do you have 2 national security issues in this problem and come up with a good? You really don't, other than what all I could come up with was that, you know, the roles and responsibilities. This is not moving forward. What's happening? Oh, I did it too fast. Oh, sorry about that, everybody. My Wi-Fi must be super slow today, which is unfortunate. We're not going backwards here. Oh, goodness. Okay. The good, there's roles for everybody. No longer are the only roles technical roles. While I do have the technical roles, or a majority of them highlighted here, this is a screenshot of a career center I launched at Black Hat this year. With our common language taxonomy that we developed 5 years ago, that's super fantastic. But to show the world and help with all the entry level that we need, as well as those in the industry, that our discipline is vast. It is not just technical roles, and there is a place for everybody. And so I encourage you to really spread the word to the world, to your friends, to your family, and everybody. And it doesn't matter of age, that there's these jobs out there, these roles out there, and not all of them are technical. In fact, many of them have not. You don't have to be technical at all. So understand that. And also career pathing is in here. There's a ton in here, but that's the only thing I could come up with. I'm very sorry because, and you'll understand why in a minute, the market is really stressed. But before I do so, I'd say one thing to share with you is that it is good to see that the majority of the roles that we're getting called about are the ones that are, you know, really protecting us at the greatest level, other than privacy, which we haven't seen a whole lot of jump in, unfortunately. But these roles, as we know, particularly product security, is where the fight is at, and the longest that it takes to develop these folks. And a security consultant is one of these other 4 just consulting, doing that, right? So, you know, not necessarily like the best of news, but it's news. All right, so we're gonna jump onward into the bad before the ugly. Job searching's broken. That means hiring is broken. It is the first thing I saw the minute I got back in the business. I couldn't make a match. Ads didn't work because I had put SEO and all these words in it, and you'll see in a second. And yet 84% of the market is willing to talk. This is not an unrealistic statistic. This is what we experience. If you can get to the person, you know, and if your job description makes sense, then, you know, you could hire. And maybe that is the good news. Maybe that is the good news. If you follow everything I'm about to tell you today, you could actually fill all your roles. No, we just found a good. We found a good. It's very true. It is very true because of how many people are looking. That doesn't mean that we're not robbing one to pay the other, right? And which is why it still lacks the framework of good. And yet it is true that cybersecurity professionals are not really loving where they're working. And that in itself is a national security issue because they're distracted from that. Who wouldn't be? The stress from not being happy at work or not feeling fulfilled. And we're going to get into all of this, but like, think about it. Like all of you hearing and how hard it is to hire, and all of you who have searched or are searching, how awful and hard it was to search. Like, what? This doesn't make any sense. But 80-something% wants to get a move. That's nonsense, right? Like that means we have a broken system, and it's because the technology era really, really has challenged job searching, or broke it, I shall say. So first and foremost, we all know you can't go on LinkedIn without seeing somebody starting a thread about job descriptions, right? Like it's the worst thing ever for all of us. And how did that happen? Because in my day, before the digital era, posting a job meant $5,000 in the Sunday paper and you got this much room. You got a paragraph. Orange County Register, LA Times. I know, I was placing those ads, $5,000. It ran on Sunday, and you couldn't find it after that unless you went to the library or had some old newspaper. It didn't stick around. That's a big investment. In fact, $5,000 in the 90s and the early 2000s is like $15,000 today. But now we can post jobs for a couple $100, and you can leave it up there forever. And oh my gosh, even putting it on our own websites doesn't really cost anything. And so all of a sudden, job descriptions became not important and cut and pasted. Or the job description became not in the control of the hiring manager and HR took control. Those are the two things that have made these jobs vague and impersonal. And then you add on to that SEO in terms of trying to get your job found. That means you got to put keywords in 10 times each keyword, at least 10 or 11 of them, just to get your job found. And then how about these ATS systems, which is applicant tracking systems that everybody has, that says you as a professional have to upload your resume, and then the ATS is going to do something, and hopefully you get to the place you're trying to get to, which is the hiring manager, which we all know doesn't happen very often. And so, not only do job seekers have to deal with that, which is how you want to be thinking if you're hiring, what are job seekers dealing with? That's the way to come up with your hiring strategy, right? They have to go to all these different platforms, and search in all these different places. Who's got time for that? We're talking about professionals that are working, can't tell your employer you want to look for another job. So, which means you have to search and hide, which is a terrible feeling. And the time that it takes, nobody even has time. Every cyber professional is doing more than one job most places. Yeah. So you put these three, and I'm not even done, together with, let's say somebody does get a right match for a job, the salary is almost all the time off because there is such a demand that it is going up and up, and people do get multiple offers. And while they may not be leaving their job, which I firmly believe they are not leaving their job because of money, of course they get more money when they do go to leave, and companies are prepared to compete. And so if you don't, most organizations aren't prepared for that. They're not prepared for what it means to be ready to make an offer. And that salary data changes regularly. I have added it to my career center. We now update it monthly. That's how updated it has to be. And really our data is, 2 years and above, in a seat. Then we've got internal HR practices, which means putting cybersecurity roles into the typical model of how they're going to service a role being filled, which is typically not fast enough, not ready to make the offers as quick as need to be made. Never mind the internal recruiting not speaking cybersecurity, right? Like we all know that that's a big problem and you can't blame them. I mean, I had to build a whole job building taxonomy and technology, same thing to build resumes and a matching system just to do what I used to do in staffing for 13 years, which is make matches fast and be productive and not waste time. And I had to build a whole platform. So, we can't blame these recruiters to not speak cybersecurity when we just saw how vast cybersecurity, 10 categories, 45 functional roles, and they're going to speak all of that without support of, as the type of support I had to create for my recruiters. It's not going to happen. So all of this together has, broken the ability to search. So find each other and match each other. And we'd think in an era of, 2021 going into 2022, we would have solved this with technology. And the main reason that hasn't happened is because, matching poor content to poor content doesn't have a lot of value, which is why I've done what I've done with this taxonomy. Hopefully my screen will move here. I'm afraid to push anything because I already pushed it and things are going a little slow here, but happy to take a question. Yeah.
Well, just Deidre, if you can see the chat, there's not really questions but some comments that people have posted there.
Yeah.
If you see anything there to
I see Sisso's. I cringe to think that HR may be filtering candidates. Yeah. And how I feel bad for them. I feel bad for you. I mean, the whole thing is just like, what are we doing? And and the thing that really freaks me out the most is how long it takes. And I forgot to mention that for most of the community to get the ability to use a staffing agency outside. I commissioned a report 2 or 3 years ago, Chensi Wang, she's ex-Forrester, she's awesome, to show everybody that most clients were waiting 6 to 9 months. 6 to 9 months. I never saw that in IT. I never saw that in software. Sure as heck don't see that in my sales division where we place security sales professionals. And so it's just really discouraging, to recognize how much of a financial barrier there is to the success of a CISO, because if they can't have the budget to use a specialized firm, I don't know how you're going to do it. That's how I feel. Like, I don't know. How are you going to have a team? I don't know, because by the time you get one and it took so long, and then, you get the rest of the people in your team burn out or two burn out, it's just a constant catch up. My clients tell me all the time, I've got lots of quotes on my website. They don't have to play that game. I get that. Now you have to be able to retain people to it's not just about getting them. And we'll talk about that in a minute, but yeah, I feel bad too. I cringe too. Not being vetted, lack of 5 to 7 years in experience. Yeah. The entry level folks have it just as bad as the C-suite with job searching.
In fact, one of the dynamics when I was an analyst at Gartner, Sam Oliaye and I wrote a note about, to your point on job descriptions or what you will convey on job descriptions, these things that are noted as, 5 to 7 years experience in X, whatever X may be. Frequently, whatever that topic is, hasn't been in the market more than a year or two. And so the job descriptions end up doing a horrible job of filtering out what would likely be very good, high quality candidates because they're poorly designed, poorly drafted. They don't really understand the dynamics of the job at hand. So
Yeah, and what that is, and I'm going to show you what a good job description looks like in a minute. What that really is the persona of the human that we think we want, right? 5 years of this, 2 years of this. That's a persona. That's not a job description. That's a qualification list that we think is needed, which most of the time it's wrong, like you're saying. But really a job description is what I'm about to show you. And I already talked about understand the money market. Like that's a big one. I would say costs us a lot of time and money dealing with that ourselves. So now we're about to put our data in Snowflake and just make it easier for everybody to see this stuff, never mind on our website, things like that, to say, look, you got to get ahead of it. And one of the big holdups of why I say it costs money and dealing with the financial piece of this is that it's not as simple as as an employer saying, oh, sure, I'll pay that. In fact, I was talking to a pen tester the other day and he was super upset. He was just sharing some company that he was interviewing with and how they wasted his time over money. And I said, you do want to understand that many organizations are struggling with, they have the Equal Pay Act and how to keep up with that. I mean, if they bring you in over somebody on the team, that is a violation. And that means the whole team or whoever has to be adjusted. I mean, I find myself frequently on the phone with big organizations and their compensation department within human resources with the CIO on the phone and the CFO on the phone, trying to solve this problem with them. It's not just that they're ill prepared, it's a big overtake. And to make that happen in a timely fashion and be able to, it is literally juggling balls for these organizations to keep up.
Yeah, I don't mean to cut you off, but that's an excellent point and one that I hadn't thought of previously, that ripple effect.
That's right. That's why it's really important to understand it so that one can get that going. Whatever raises you need to do in your department, do it so that you don't have to stall once you found somebody, because they're not going to be on the market long enough for you to stall. And, so a lot of time will be wasted. And it's hard on organizations, right? So, that being said, the job description, as far as I'm concerned, since I, at Black Hat this year, offered my technology for building jobs for free, there is never again an excuse. So every job in cybersecurity, the taxonomy is legit. NICE and NIST love it. They've sent me to OPM. Those talks have been happening. My chief security officer and his team, we've been together about 6 years. All of us are behind the content. It's legit. And the bottom line is this. This is a job description. What am I going to be doing? You want to think about somebody who's a passive seeker. Passive means they're employed. Passive means they're not like super stressed out. They're not about losing their job or being unemployed. It means they're unhappy. And so when they're searching, they've got to be able to say, oh, that sounds interesting. Oh, that's the right money. Oh, I can tell the location ASAP. Now I couldn't fit all the other O's, but I'll tell you what, I'll tell you what they are. And you can see them if you search jobs on my website. There's almost 60,000 of them. Will you sponsor citizenship? It's a big deal in California. And you know how many people respond to ads and they don't even know if they'll sponsor their H-1 visa, and it just clogs up the system because nobody puts it there, or whether or not a degree is a must versus a plus. Right? The job description needs to be able to tell a professional instantly, oh, I'm qualified and I'm interested. And that's where all of the content, to include how much time do you see allocating their day to incident response, and what is incident response to you? That's what this says, right? And same thing with security engineering. And so this is what I built internally after my first year of like, oh my gosh, I can't make money, meaning I can't employ the types of people needed with the EQ to do if I don't solve how to understand what the need is from the employer, and how to understand what the professional's been doing without being a cybersecurity expert myself. I couldn't even do it. There's no way, right? So it's free. Use it. It's for the world, by the way. It's international. And here's the other thing. There are no purple unicorns.
Oh, snap.
I hate to burst everybody's bubble. I know I had them all over my room when I was young. But in all seriousness, people don't want to be purple unicorns. That's why they don't exist. Of course, there are in the definition of a human that can do 2, 3 jobs in one or 4. That's what a purple unicorn is. That's what everybody means. Oh, leadership plus technical and staying technical, or security engineer and compliance and these other things, right? So unfortunately, this purple unicorn thing has now been people doing 4 jobs, which we're going to talk about in Burnout right now, meaning, yes, people could be capable, but it doesn't mean it's good for them. It doesn't mean it's good for you. So, make your job descriptions realistic in terms of how they're going to spend their time. And, it's really nice when you see it that way and you have the percentage breakdown, you can, as a manager, you can really get yourself into a better state of understanding what you need people to do and how much time it should take. So, it's very possible. And then the other thing is you have to hire those people that could be, unicorns, which is everybody with experience, basically, and foster new ones. Because if you don't get in the succession planning game, you're just not gonna. It's not gonna work. It's not possible. It's really not possible, because you need your folks with experience to have the menial tasks taken off if you want them to thrive, and you need them to be able to move up in rank if you want them to thrive, and you need those juniors around to take those tasks and to learn to take from them. And I know that most people don't have the budget for this, and that's why I feel so bad and why I'm so nervous about all this too, is I even, tried to do it at cost, not tried, but I offered to the community, I'll place these people at, at cost. And then it was like, I'll place them free through my secure diversity, not-for-profit, platform. And people, it wasn't the money. It was the fact that they couldn't onboard them. They didn't have the bandwidth in their minds to onboard, that their people were too strapped and that they could never train them fast or give them what they need to make them effective for them in any capacity. And so this is a challenge we must solve. And part of that challenge is going to be solved through training institutes, giving more hands-on, training. And the other part is going to be from us getting the budgets and the commitment. The challenge here is chief information security officers are moving jobs every 18 months in the US. And if they're moving every 18 months, on average, it takes a year to find the new role. That means at 8 months, that sort of, I'm not happy, is kicking in, right? So who's going to commit to a succession planning system that really requires partnerships, money, resources? If one is feeling like this isn't a long-term place, it's not going to happen, right? So we've got this in front of us, front and center right now. And, the juniors, if you will, are being told we need them, and they're stressed out like crazy because they can't figure out how to get in too. That's the other thing. I mean, we all see that every day, how many people trying to help the entry levels or so forth get in. So, it's very complex. All right, my next slide's gonna take 50 seconds probably. So what do we got here for questions before the ugly? Anything here? Let's see. One-on-one mentoring. Yeah. I mean, as I mentioned early, I got to come into a system that was already in place about training and promoting from within. And I could see every job all the way to the C-suite, what it was, not that there was many people in it, there was only 19 people in the company, but in the sales department, but like what it was, what it paid, and every role in between. And so I was able to self-motivate, self-manage, self-govern even. And then I got the training. I mean, we need to recognize that that's what we all need, right?
Deja, going back to the previous side where we had kind of the mentorship, there's a couple of things that I think programmatically are valuable to have at hand. First and foremost, you have to anticipate the turnover and don't look at it necessarily as a bad thing, but as a part of the common business practice of the organization. So back when I was building and running larger teams, we wanted to have a farm club. We wanted to go out and recruit individuals from, say, the network operations center or others that may have skills that could be brought in to bear. We wanted to train them up as fast as we could, get them good certifications, get them good exposure to different technical areas that we felt were appropriate to the operational model at hand. And then we anticipated that they would leave, but when they left, we also anticipated that because the environment was very transparent, because they were treated well throughout the entirety of the process, they would make referrals back over. So it creates a virtuous cycle versus, oh crap, we just lost a key employee that we never should have anticipated leaving, but of course they're going to leave. It's a normal occurrence in today's economy.
Yeah, yeah. Not only is it because of the economy, it's also just life. Things happen in people's
Yeah.
life. You must be prepared for what are you going to do? How are you going to cover? And, I tell people all the time, be in the conversation of career always. And
Yeah.
some managers are afraid to do that because they can't see past a year or two, like they're not getting it from their managers. So how can they really do it down? And I tell them all the time, which ties into what you're saying, which is you can be honest with them and tell them you can't see past a year or two. And, when it gets closer, we'll talk again, meaning in terms of what's the exact next role. And then if you know for sure you don't have next roles, then prepare to lose folks, help them transition out, make it so that they're searching and so that it isn't this date that just happens and you don't know about when they're giving notice. Work with them. Right. So if you're in the conversation, and I'm going to show you how we're not in the conversation, which is ultimately why this is so ugly, then we will be caught off guard. And I really do want to, and you'll see this in moving forward, this economic piece of why people leave. It's a little bit of a misnomer, and yet there is a piece to it. All right, so we're moving on to the ugly, in terms of hiring. We know that, half of our population, it's actually a little over 50% are women. It's almost 51%. And this number is, a couple of percentages a year. And it makes sense why it's only a couple of percentages a year because, oops, I wanted to show you this one. And it's because, it's because of this, I'm going to go back to, is that even men are slowly coming into the field. We're not, as a community, doing a good job selling what cybersecurity is, hence what I was talking about earlier with that career center and how vast it is. So even men aren't necessarily coming in, but of course this starts young and we're really just recovering / getting out of this era of keyboard and a hoodie is what it means to be in cybersecurity. Between media and everything else, that's what people think, which means highly technical, dark. Doesn't attract everybody, attracts a certain part of folks. But in particular for women, in those two slides that I skipped, is that women are really feeling like it's going to take them a long time. And this is a cybersecurity stat to grow. And so while we are bringing women into security, we're not promoting them. We've got 13% of the Fortune 500 that have women leaders. And I see it all day long. Women are really getting stuck in the middle management. And that is something we all as a team have to solve, because if we don't, we will never have what we need to defend ourselves, which is a diverse workforce, meaning our attackers are diverse. That's one thing. So how are we going to think like them, which is a big piece of what security is, unless we are diverse? And diverse isn't just gender. It's race, it's socioeconomic background, right? It's different religions, all of the things that make us different, which are much less than what make us the same. But it's the differences in where the attack surface lies. In social engineering and thinking about attacks. And so we must solve this, and we must solve it fast. And part of this barrier is an economic barrier. If you look at who is at the top of these positions in the Fortune 500, you will see significant amounts of degrees and certifications that cost hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars to get. And not many people are getting that, and particularly women. Thank goodness there's been organizations like Secure Diversity and WESIS and Cyber and all of us out there. SANS just, has been doing some really cool stuff with us lately, getting women into these programs. And yet it's just, we're just starting. But really it's all of us being, conscious of this. And now the slide's going to stick for a second. Were you shocked by the 13% in the Fortune 500? I actually thought it was more, and so only because of just the work I do, I get to interact with a lot of C-suites, but when I really dug into the research, it's pretty slim.
I got a question for you on the lack of diversity and stuff. Are you seeing that? Are HR departments aware of that? Or is it part of what they're thinking, or is that still outside the scope of where they're at?
Well, when my slide moves forward, hopefully it'll be on the slide that says we have 1/4 of our organizations with diversity, initiatives, 1/4 of them. And which means 3/4 is not even thinking about it. They're not even in the game of it. And here's the other thing that's just super frustrating. Oh, I clicked it right when it turned. Aha. I guess it's not going there. So it'll be a second. But what's interesting about that too is that those folks are. Oh gosh, I lost my point now. Let's move on. Those ones that do have the diversity teams focusing on inside of a company are losing those diversity leaders in their year time frame or so, meaning they're not getting the support they need. We're seeing mass attrition at the level of diversity leaders coming into organizations to take the job of. And that speaks exactly to the fact that we don't have inclusive environments to begin with. So diversity will never be successful. And we see that in the stats that you're going to see in a minute, that the men are moving jobs all the time. So if that means a lot of upset, if men aren't happy, how are the minorities going to come in and be happy? It isn't going to happen. Meaning, you folks have the most power and everybody's struggling and sticking together, unfortunately, like seriously. So on top of all of this, diversity challenges, not enough men, not enough women, the game of, or the battle of security is a numbers game too. We've got burnout going, and it is all post-COVID. Of course, people were complaining about working multiple jobs, but burnout was a word that wasn't used much when we were actually talking to people. And now it's a lot. It's a lot. And it's both from a work perspective, and we'll get into why, but also just home and life and what's happened and how much upset has happened at home during COVID, and kids and health and families. So all-time high, super scary. Was with my entire recruiting team the other day, and they were all concerned, from a social perspective, at a level that I haven't seen them be at in terms of how much they're hearing it. And so we all have got to look at, why is that? What's happening? And I'll tell you, this ISACA survey really says a lot, and we have to pull some stuff out of here together, because if not, we can get lost. So meaning in particular, this, recruited by other companies. That's not why people leave jobs. People don't leave jobs because of recruiter. I'm sure my recruiters wish they could make people take jobs. And maybe they'd throw away their soul for money like people do. I don't know, but it's not even possible. So that's the good news. And so when I see that, I say to myself, 59% of these people fall into one of those other categories, because one of those other categories made that person take the phone call. You know, you have to talk to people, made that person be willing to even take that phone call or read that mail. And it doesn't mean that, you know, if the recruiters weren't out there recruiting, you know, of course, yeah, I get that, but every company's recruiting, so we can't blame recruiters. Please don't blame recruiters. I know there's a ton of them that are terrible. I understand that my profession has that, and yet at the end of the day, we must really work with clean data here. And what made somebody take the call is all these other things. And for something I'm giving to the Wall Street Journal data tomorrow, I'm releasing it to them, is to show the level of why people are leaving pre-COVID and now, and what's been happening in the last year. So it's always been growth and opportunity, not getting training, opportunity to move up, which is succession planning, and or you know, the company doesn't have any other roles, right? And the other has always been the environment, the culture, the way it feels to work there, relationships. And those were the top two reasons. And money is just it's an after fact. In fact, right now, we have professionals telling us all the time, I'll take less money for an environment that has a, you know, a culture where people are happy. I'll take less money for an environment that won't make me come into the office every day. I'm not kidding. In almost every phone call, that's what my team is hearing. And so it's not money. I'm telling you, it doesn't mean that somebody can't, you know, small percentage, you know, that's not the core of this. And so what that means is we have low emotional intelligence management, and we're not in the career conversation if we're being surprised at these, you know, resignations based on growth and opportunity. And we're just not in that conversation. And so I also will tell you this on the financial piece and people saying that's why they left because of money. You know, nobody tells HR the truth when they leave. Who wants to do that? Then they're going to have to defend their truths, or not get a reference, or upset somebody that they like, but they just don't want to work for, or whatever. Like, that's not, we all learned, humans learned long ago that HR is there to protect the company. And so people don't say what's going on, but it's certainly easy to say I got a $50,000 raise, knowing that the company isn't going to counter at 50 or 70 or 75. So recognize that and be humble about it. Meaning managers, like to yourself, know that most of the time people leave people. That's just the way that it works. And that companies can have one culture and a group can have another culture. So as managers, you can succeed, even if your company culture isn't as great. It's harder, but you can. So super, you know, interesting way to think about that. All right. So I just scared the hell out of everybody, and I'd like to, you know, make sure that we have some solutions before I leave, and certainly want to make sure we check on questions here in a second. But the bottom line is, this is all we've got. We've got one thing to make the solution beyond what I've already done on the job searching thing. I solved. It's only a matter of time before all of us are there, and I really believe that it won't be long. But the emotional intelligence piece, we've got a ton of work to do, and I can't do it for anybody. That's the unfortunate part, like I can on the job searching technology and matching. And I want everybody to understand that these 8 things are not negotiable from the perspective of if you don't do all 8 of them, you will lose the talent war. There is the only organizations that will win on the talent war, and people are thinking about this, and people are taking this seriously, and people are retaining talent. My cyber team's been with me 5 years. There's a bunch of them. Last time my cloud security engineer got a raise, he said, "Hey boss, I love you. That's great. Don't price me out of cyber SN." That was his response. So, you know, this is about managers having emotional intelligence or at a high level, and that we need training and support. And it isn't this conversation about what emotional intelligence is and then it's all over. It's a constant training, just like everything else everybody's doing. They have to keep in the training, right? This positive attitude culture from the top down, it's like any culture that doesn't adopt it eventually will lose. We'll just lose. Nobody wants to work there. Self-care, I mean, come on, if we've learned how much our health affects work and everything else, and if we're not thinking about how to make sure our teammates have time for self-care, then again, that culture is going to lose. That leads into kindness, which really comes down to how we speak to people and our behaviors. And then, the rest here is really, heavy operations, consistent management training, roles and responsibilities clearly defined so that career promotions can be transparent, because if not, you can take any one of these out of your environment and it won't be inclusive. Therefore, it will never be diverse. And men need this as much as minorities do. This is gender agnostic, which is why diversity only comes after inclusion. Inclusion first, diversity is a result. This is something I rolled out at ISC Squared this week, my behavioral standards for this conversation. I've been asked about it for years and years. I finally put it together in terms of the framework to the foundation of possibly even retaining talent, never mind diversity talent. Win-win communication is what only used to be taught to salespeople. And shame on all of us, because all we do is talk to each other all day now, not just salespeople talking to people. And that means the ability to be solutions oriented, calm, cool, collected, lean language. I mean, each of these have their just tons of training within them. I do this training for my org on a regular basis. And so it is super important to adopt a win-win communication education program so that you can elevate the level of communication of the folks in your organization. Yesterday, I was speaking with a CISO, Jessica Goldstein. Her last name is so hard for me. Sorry, Jessica, if you hear this. And she's bringing to the forefront, as are some other C-suites, that, when she first comes in as a CISO consulting, she's looking at D&I policies. And doing an audit is to even the emotional intelligence of the org, because if security is directly affected by the emotional intelligence of the org, the attrition, insider threat is all about how people are being treated inside the org. Never mind if your people are fatigued or not interested in working there or not happy, their performance and their attention to detail will be low. And so she has that a part of her audit. And I thought, oh my gosh, I'm going to tell everybody, yes, my chief security officer is right next to me, number 2. Like, he does that for me. It really sort of woke me up into that security first in everything, not just application, software development, product security. No, everything, which really could be how are people feeling,
Yeah, that really is a fantastic insight.
Yeah, right? Yesterday I was like, oh, thank you. That's a gem. Let's spread the news about that.
Right.
What a great way to make emotional intelligence actually, cost something, meaning putting it to, and in fact, I think my next slide, who knows, we'll see whenever it comes, it shows how money is affecting this a situation of emotional intelligence skills training. So meaning there's a project called Project Aristotle that Google did with Harvard back in 2016. And it's really been since this and a few other studies that we've seen the financial investment, which is to say that it's a no-brainer. The highest performing teams are the highest EQ managers. And while they have lower IQ in some instances, it doesn't even matter because it's all about the happiness of the team that creates the success and the results. And so we all know that nothing really matters until money is associated with it, unfortunately. And when the stock market and public companies can have data like that, that says, hey, we can evaluate a company based on its emotional intelligence. We can evaluate how well it's going to do. Well, then people are going to start to put money behind that, right? And funding and support will be for more of those cultures than not. And it'll also, it has resulted in penalties, C-suite penalties and retention statistics is happening in diversity statistics, meaning incomes of the C-suite are being held to doing much better in those areas, because the stock market and the financial investment firms know that if you don't retain people, then you're not going to be as successful, and you're not going to retain people unless you have high emotional intelligence. And so what is emotional intelligence? Well, when the slide comes, it will also tell us that it's the ability to understand how and care about how others feel, think, perceive, as well as your ability to control your own emotions, such that you're in a calm, cool, collected state when you're interacting with others. That's emotional intelligence, and it's your EQ, whereas your IQ is really about test taking, measuring of memory and memorying items, which is super fascinating. I think all of us grew up thinking it was just IQ and that's all there was, and that's it. And it turns out that's not the case at all. Oh my gosh, I literally pushed it right when it turned. That's hysterical. So here's the article. And so here's also where everybody's asking for EQ. I mean, EQ is also known as soft skills. And thank you, ISACA. I didn't just use these because I'm speaking at ISACA. You always have the best stats, honestly. I love it. Is to say that soft skills is emotional intelligence skills. They're the same thing. They're interchangeable. People don't really like the term soft skills, so I stopped using it because it used to be associated with only salespeople. But think about it, our practitioners are calling for it. They're saying this is the biggest gap. So not the stock market's calling for it. The financial firms are calling for it. We're, as a community calling for it. We can't ignore this. It is very, very serious. I'm going to do a couple of more and then we'll take some questions and thoughts here. I have lots of slides that will be, available for everybody that really go into what is about to show you is my EQ tree and also which is all the skills that I teach, as well as, I don't teach to the public, but I teach to my organization. In fact, ISC Squared has them certified, but I haven't been doing them for years. I've been so busy, but not just those skill sets, but every one of those human behavior standards, sort of mapped out into some slides for everybody too. But really, if we remember, this was the ugly part. The ugly part is our current cybersecurity workforce is stressed beyond belief. We're shorter than we've ever been. In fact, up until the last year and a half, most of our business was outreach, literally. Now it's in reach, meaning those attacks increasing so significantly over the last year and a half has woken up 32 million businesses in the United States. That's how many businesses we have. And 70% of them don't even have a cybersecurity person. I'm not joking. And 70. So, yeah, and so when we see that posted, that we're short 500,000, that's the people that we know about that are, there's meaning that answered a survey or posting jobs. I've got almost 60,000 jobs on my website. That means that any job that was posted in the last 45 days is on my website today. That's what that number is. There's about 160,000 that are actively posted, but well over 45 days, so to speak. So most people aren't posting jobs because it doesn't work until now, what I've done. But at the end of the day, most people aren't even taking the survey. So, 32 million businesses that just, the ransomware issue that is hitting us over and over and over, and the attacks is they're waking up. And you'd think these companies had security professionals. You'd think we were past the days where a product company that's building products that impact human life would have. And no, it's very strange. It keeps me up at night. I don't like having all this content which is why I share it with you all the time, because it is amazing how fast this thing goes. So that's my tree. These are skills. Even love at work is a skill. Love's not sex. I say that all the time. I want it out there. Like, you can love in the office, and you must. I mean, my gosh, we work more than we do anything else. But that's just one of them. It is making and managing measurable agreements. I saw that typo earlier. I didn't have a chance to fix it, but making and managing measurable agreements is like one of the biggest reasons that there is upset today, is non-measurable agreements. So lots to get to here. I'm going to wrap up because we're at the hour here, but just to show you, I've got slides for everything we talked about here today, and also wanted to just part arms with a call to arms to say we all have to get out here and share with everybody. There's roles, no matter age, no matter if technical, non-technical, or we're going to really suffer. And on that note, I have organization slide here for all the folks that are out there helping in the diversity space. They have programs for certs and training and all kinds of stuff. And last but not least, next Thursday and Friday is our 7th day of security event. It's free to women, anybody 18 and over that wants to get into security or who's in security. Clients of ours like Netflix, Amazon, Workboard, tons of our clients will be there, and just sponsors to hire. And it's women speakers only. I don't know if you've all heard about Day of Security. Our last one in March had 1,000 women, 112 speakers, 52 countries, red teaming talks, blue teaming talks, EQ talks, which is something everybody wants, and more. This time it is free. Registration closes on Wednesday. So please spread the word. It doesn't matter how old, how young, no experience. This is a wonderful event. We are playing off of Halloween, and we're going to dress up on Friday. But other than that, it's super fun. So that's it. Here's my contact info. Let me look at chat. Oh, looks like somebody put it in there. Thank you for doing that. The Day of Security.
And then Dean Larson posed a couple of questions. If you scroll up just a bit there.
Walk away from this hour spent. How can I use this insight to find the right kind of company that hires effectively? Yeah, that's a good point. So until every job is posted within my taxonomy, you're going to have a challenge. But I would say that, definitely networking. Speaking to everybody that reaches out, even if you're not sure if it's a good fit, unfortunately, because you don't really know until you spend the time. Conferences, events, networking, until every job is in one place, which is my call to arms to the world, in a taxonomy that makes sense, we're still going to have to do some work. I don't think it'll be that long before it happens. I've got 60,000 of them already. So hopefully we can help you, but really it's the old school, talk to everybody, be prepared to sell yourself, be prepared to, engage them and figure out what the job is so that you can figure out if you're even interested, so that you don't feel like you didn't get selected and there's something wrong with you, which just happens all the time, or you're missing something, take control of figuring out the job. I have so much more for you. I have videos I can help you with. Reach out to me, Dean.
Yeah, and I think one thing on that is, for Dean, is if you look at it from the inverse perspective, you've provided some great information on what to stay away from.
Yeah.
Or to identify that potential red flags in where you are pointing some of your energy or time.
Yeah, it's hard to say don't respond to the ad because it's possible that you get to the manager and that the ads may be something that could, you know what I mean? Like I hate to tell somebody not to. Unfortunately, it's like spam. If you have to, from the perspective of if the job description is probably cut and pasted and really not their job. So we got to get to the hiring managers. We work directly with the hiring managers. That's how you do things. You move quickly. We're happy to help. But other than that, you have to really dig. And it's time consuming. And I wish it was solved, but it'll be solved very soon from the perspective of volume. So lots of videos I have on this conversation.
Deidre, thank you so much for this. This was absolutely outstanding. We will definitely look to revisit this discussion again coming into 2022. And I love the Day of Security, and we'll be promoting that directly. I think that's a fabulous effort. And just thank you again for being here. Dave, any final comments or words on your end?
No, just thank you. Like I said, we've had the opportunity to kind of get to know each other over the last few months. And that's actually where I learned of a Day of Security previously, was through yourself. So no, I think this is great. I'm laughing inside because I almost compare the narrative that you went through on this to like watching the Poseidon Adventure, where maybe if we watched it backwards, we would have seen the ugly, the bad, and then it would have ended all happy. But
next time.
Yeah, but the reality is this is the environment that we're in, and we're all in this together.
Yeah.
And so
yes, absolutely.
So no, I really appreciate you being available and sharing all the experience and knowledge that you have. Thank you very much.
I appreciate all you do for the community as well, both of you, and ISACA overall. So thank you.
Excellent. Thank you again.
Awesome.
Have a great rest of your day, everyone. Bye-bye.
Great. Thanks. Bye. Thank you again.
Hey, no problemo. Reach out. I got salary day and all kinds of stuff. Just reach out.
Awesome. And we'll just, I totally look forward to playing it forward with you on all of this stuff as much as we can. And even with the elections and stuff coming up, Matt and I both know that we're sticking around and everything. So there'll be more opportunities, and look forward to it.
Awesome. Well, I look forward to hearing from you again, and I'll see you soon.
Awesome.
Take care.
Thanks. You too. Thank you. Bye-bye.